So part two of this video on Busroot, I'll just quickly talk about asset utilization, line speed, and energy. So previously we spoke about the production progress tracking, the real-time tracking of the workstation, so that we understand what they're working on, how much they've produced, getting some OEE metrics on that. The next part of this is kind of productive time versus non-productive time. So again, we can automatically monitor the machines to understand where they are in terms of adding value to the production process, which is a little bit different from the OEE metrics that we saw earlier, which is based on cycle time. Cycle time is part to part, whereas when we're looking at productive versus non-productive time, we're looking at the actual amount of time that the machine is spent running and adding value to the manufacturing process. So that's what asset utilization shows here in kind of a heat map form. Again, this is example data, so it's not going to look, it's going to look slightly regimented in terms of automatically generated data, but this is just giving you an idea of what this chart can look like for customers. So green represents the machine being 100% utilized. Rarely for our customers do they see a green wall like this. There's always some stops and starts throughout the day that they can see, so we can use this to work out are they starting a bit late after a shift break, or at the start of the day, at the end of the day, are they stopping early, between kind of changeovers of parts. And this is what we can see here, mocked up in this CNC 1 and 2, is essentially, in the case of a CNC, this is the way we operate with a lot of customers, is we're monitoring the and-on light of the machine, and the and-on light generally links directly to whether that machine is actually being utilized, it's actually in operation. When the machine is being loaded or unloaded, the and-on light is not green, it's red. And then only when the machine is actually running does it come up as green here, and that's what we're reflecting here. So you can visualize now the changeover times of the machine, and you can see this line here on CNC1, this might represent a completely normal operation. The CNC machine is running, then it stops, then there is some kind of unloading and loading process, then the machine runs again. So it's typical for this CNC machine, for example, to reach a kind of productive percentage of 65%, just because the amount of time that's spent loading and unloading the machine, where it's not actually running and adding value. So I hope you can see the different ways that this can be used to analyze the actual manufacturing process, and maybe look to optimize some of those things, and understand the actual utilization that's being done on a lot of these assets. That's one aspect of what we do. The other thing that we can track in real time are line speeds. So for line speeds, if I pick a typical example here of what we're looking at. So again, this is example data we're looking at. So within the SKU or station configuration sections down here, we can set line speed targets. So this doesn't have to be just one target for the machine. You can have different line speed targets depending on the product you're making. An example here of what we're looking at, again, typical for some of our customers, is like a plastic extrusion machine, where they have specific line speed targets that they want to be able to hit for that machine, and it gives us an indication of some of those typical losses that we see, performance losses particularly. So a performance loss will be, example here at the start of the day, where the line is actually being run slower than its line speed. That is fairly typical of what we see, and this chart helps to visualize it. We also have a couple of notifications that can come off the back of this, and they also show on the cockpit screen is around slow running of the machine, so not a stop. You can see here this, with these big patches here, would be categorized as stops, so they would come through on the cockpit, as we showed earlier, as the machine being completely stopped. Whereas this case, the machine isn't stopped, it's running. It's just running a little bit lower than what the target line speed is. And in that case, we raise a slightly different type of issue called a slow, where we can alert the operator to the fact that they are running the machine at slightly less than the target line speed. And we see a lot of performance gains from this, because it's a fairly typical scenario for unmonitored machines, or for machines that are not automatically monitored, that they can be run at slightly, not at the target line speeds that the that the production managers actually think that they're running at, or they should be running at. So line speed monitoring for conveyors and continuous manufacturing processes, again, is something that we can do as part of the system and bring that through. And then just finally on this point here, so a big feature request that we've had is energy monitoring. So for each station, for each workstation within the factory, we can do asset level energy monitoring. I'll go into the technology we use to do this and bring it into the platform, but just to say at the moment that we do the kilowatt hours being consumed on a very granular basis on a it's minute by minute basis, but actually we can go even more granular than that. And by having it that granular, we can use the energy data to do a few interesting things. We can tie that to utilization of the machine. Like I said earlier, a lot of the times asset utilization can be based on something like an and-on light to know that the machine is running and adding value to the manufacturing process. But it doesn't have to be the and-on light. That's just one way in which we can get data into this heat map. Another way would be using electrical usage to tie that to asset utilization and using that to power the asset utilization chart. We can also do things like production output versus energy usage. So we can start to understand an energy usage per part. We can use that data for that because we have the full range of scheduling information, maintenance information, downtime information, production counts. By combining it with energy usage, we can get a few interesting metrics around where energy is being used and or wasted. Okay, so again, I'm just going to round off on that for this part of the video. I'll do a final part for this video just to talk about the hardware that we provide and how we do a lot of this data capture.